had always embraced the serenity of our tiny island, where the sun painted the sky with hues of gold and the sand felt like silk beneath my feet. But beneath the beauty lay a shadow, a reality that couldn't be ignored, a reality of high crime rates and the constant threat of danger. Living on a small Caribbean island had its charms, but it also came with its share of challenges. Crime was rampant, and power outages were like clockwork, a predictable disruption in our lives that criminals saw as an opportunity to strike. The terror that invaded the island during these outages provided a shield for those with malicious intent, and it was during one such night that my life would be forever changed. It was a warm evening. I had just finished dinner and was settling into my cozy little apartment, a refuge from the chaos of the world outside. I lit a few candles, and I chuckled to myself, thinking of the simplicity of life on our island. But as darkness fell, so did the power. The sudden silence that followed was jarring, the hum of electronics replaced by an eerie quiet. I sighed and reached for my phone, using its feeble light to navigate my way around. Power outages were a common occurrence that I had become used to. I settled onto the couch and tried to lose myself in a book. The energy in my place felt unsettling, like a predator lurking just beyond the edge of my vision. I shook off my unease and focused on my book, trying to lose myself in its pages. But then, a faint sound caught my attention, a shuffling noise, like footsteps on gravel. My heart skipped a beat, and I held my breath, straining to listen. The noise continued, growing louder, and I realized that someone was outside my window. Was it just a curious neighbor, or something far more sinister? I grabbed my phone, my fingers trembling as I dialed the local police. But the line was dead, a reminder of the power outage that had plunged us into darkness. I felt a wave of panic wash over me. I was alone, defenseless, with no way to call for help. I tiptoed to the window, my heart pounding in my chest, and cautiously peered outside. The darkness was impenetrable, and I strained my eyes, trying to make out any shapes in the blackness. And then, I saw it, a shadowy figure moving towards my door. I backed away from the window, my mind racing. I needed to think, to come up with a plan. My heart pounded in my ears as I considered my options. I could try to escape through the window, but I was on the second floor, and the fall would likely injure me. I needed to stay put, to find a way to defend myself. I grabbed a heavy candlestick from the coffee table, my hands trembling as I held it like a makeshift weapon. I ran to the far corner of the room. My heart was racing as I waited for the inevitable confrontation. And then, it happened, a loud crash, followed by the sound of splintering wood. The intruder had forced their way into my apartment. I held my breath and kept my tight grip on the candlestick as I prepared to defend myself. The intruder stepped into the room. I could barely see their silhouette in the darkness. My heart pounded, my adrenaline surging as I faced them, my voice shaking as I tried to summon the courage to speak. "Stay back," I warned, my voice quivering. But the intruder didn't listen. They walked towards me, and it was clear that they came to harm me. I was panicking, but I swung the candlestick with all my might, connecting with a sickening thud. The intruder let out a cry of pain and stumbled back once their balance was thrown off. I took advantage of the moment, my heart racing as I bolted towards the door. But before I could reach it, the intruder lunged at me, their fingers closing around my wrist in a vice-like grip. I screamed, my voice piercing the darkness as I fought to break free. Finally, with a burst of adrenaline-fueled strength, I managed to break free from their grasp. I stumbled towards the door, my heart pounding, and fumbled with the lock. The door swung open, and I sprinted into the hallway, the cool night air a welcome relief. I raced down the stairs, my breath coming in ragged gasps, until I reached the safety of the street below. I didn't stop running until I reached the nearest neighbor's house, pounding on the door until they answered. Tears streamed down my face as I recounted the terrifying ordeal, my voice shaking as I spoke. The neighbor called the police, and they arrived on the scene within minutes, which was very unusual. They apprehended the intruder, their presence a reassuring reminder that I was no longer alone in my fight. The investigation that followed revealed a chilling truth. The intruder had targeted me specifically, seeing the power outage as an opportunity to strike. It turned out that the intruder was a local bank worker at a bank I frequented. I had quite a bit of money in my bank account and made weekly withdrawals. The man would often joke during my withdrawals that my mattress must be filled with cash. I thought nothing of it until I found out he had planned to rob me the entire time. Little did he know, the weekly withdrawals were monies that I was taking out of the bank to pay to the care of my sick father who was in the hospital, and not money I was staking under my mattress. The bank worker, who was always friendly, is the last person I would expect to set me up or attempt to rob me in my home.
It was one of those sticky summer nights, the kind where the air felt heavy and suffocating. I had just finished binge-watching my favorite show when the power suddenly flickered and died. My apartment plunged into darkness, and I let out an exasperated sigh. Of course, it had to be now, when I was in the middle of a movie marathon. I grabbed my phone, using its faint glow to navigate my way around the living room. I debated lighting a few candles, but decided against it. I'd be fine, I thought. I knew my apartment like the back of my hand, and I'd been through enough power outages to handle this. I figured it was as good a time as any to take out the trash. I grabbed the bag and made my way to the hallway, my footsteps echoing eerily in the dark. The hallway was inky black, and I cursed myself for not grabbing a flashlight. I fumbled along the wall, inching my way to the garbage chute. Just as I was about to drop the bag down the chute, I heard a low creaking sound. My heart leaped into my throat, and I turned to see the building's front door slowly swinging shut. Panic surged through me. The last thing I needed was to be locked out in the pitch-black hallway. I sprinted towards the door, my fingers just grazing the handle as it clicked shut. No, no, no. I whispered frantically, pounding on the door. My knuckles rapped against the cold metal, and I cursed my luck. I was trapped. I took a deep breath, trying to quell the rising anxiety. I wasn't a helpless damsel. I could handle this. I reached for my phone again, using its feeble light to guide my way back to the garbage chute. I disposed of the trash and turned to make my way back to my apartment. As I walked down the hallway, I heard footsteps behind me. My heart skipped a beat, and I spun around, the dim light of my phone casting eerie shadows. My eyes met those of a stranger, a man I had never seen in or around the building before. I held the door open for him, my polite nature taking over. He offered a nod of thanks, and I watched as he entered the building. I didn't think too deeply into it. He could have been a new tenant or a friend of someone else who lived here. I continued on my way, feeling a twinge of unease, but brushing it off. I was almost at my apartment door when I heard his voice behind me. "Hey, excuse me," he called out. I turned to face him, his silhouette barely visible in the darkened hallway. "Yeah." He seemed friendly enough, his voice polite. "I'm looking for an apartment on this floor. Do you know where 303 is?" I hesitated, my mind racing as I tried to recall if I had ever heard of an apartment 303 in the building. But something felt off, a prickling at the back of my neck that I couldn't ignore. "I don't know the apartments by number," I replied cautiously. "Sorry." He smiled, but it wasn't a friendly smile. It was predatory, unsettling. "No problem, thanks anyway." I turned to unlock my apartment door, my heart pounding in my chest. As I stepped inside and closed the door behind me, a chill ran down my spine. What had just happened? Why did that encounter leave me feeling so uneasy? I paced around my apartment, my mind racing. Maybe I was just being paranoid. Maybe the guy was really just looking for an apartment. But deep down, I knew something wasn't right. I had a gut feeling that he was up to no good. I debated calling the building manager or the police, but I didn't have any concrete evidence to support my suspicions. I decided to stay vigilant, locking all my doors and windows and clutching my phone tightly. The minutes felt like hours as I sat in the darkness, every creak of the building making my heart skip a beat. And then I heard it, a faint scraping sound outside my apartment door. My breath caught in my throat, and I held my phone like a lifeline. I tiptoed towards the door, my heart pounding, and peered through the peephole. My blood ran cold. There he was, the stranger from the hallway, kneeling in front of my door. He was trying to pick the lock, a malicious grin on his face. Fear coursed through my veins, and I knew I had to act fast. I grabbed my phone and dialed 911, my voice trembling as I whispered my location and the situation. The dispatcher assured me that help was on the way, but I was on my own for the time being. I backed away from the door, my heart racing as I watched the stranger continue his attempts to break in. It felt like an eternity before I heard the distant wail of sirens approaching. The stranger must have heard them too, because he bolted, disappearing into the darkness. When the police arrived, I recounted the terrifying encounter, my hands still shaking from the adrenaline rush. They assured me that they would increase patrols in the area and advised me to stay vigilant. I thanked them, feeling a mixture of relief and lingering fear. In the days that followed, I couldn't shake off the paranoia that had settled in. Every noise, every shadow, sent a shiver down my spine. I installed extra locks on my doors and windows, and I made sure to always carry my phone with me, ready to dial for help at a moment's notice. That night, as I lay in bed with my heart still racing, I couldn't help but think about how close I had come to danger.